Well, you know what? You've been through a lot. You're going to go through a whole lot more. So get ready.
Hopefully, it's on the upside of things.
It's funny. There's a woman that I spoke to in Florida, and she's at my parents' place down there, and she's in her 90s. And I said, "All right, you're 90. So at what point in life does it get easier?" She goes, "It doesn't." And I said, "Well, you know what? I at least feel better now that I know that. I don't look for it to get easier. I just keep pounding forward." So
That's
I'm
yeah.
passing that advice to you. You can use it however you want.
I'll take it. I'll be I'll be running at the Giants my whole life,
Yeah.
probably.
Listen, I think I love that song. It's awesome, man. But
Thank you.
I don't know if it got cut off prior to, but I wanted to say, like, I appreciate anybody that's achieved any level of success, especially it's something that they love and that they enjoy. I love to hear their story. I've seen enough athletes, through the years to know what they go through to get to the top of their profession. And I've had a great time talking to people in business and in entertainment, music, and for me, I went through your story, and I know, yeah, you're 22, but you've been through a lot. What has it been like for you, just to this point?
Um, yeah, there's been a lot of there's been a lot of hardship. There's been a lot of pain that I've had to deal with.
Hmm.
uh, it's I mean, yeah, depression is something I've struggled with, anxiety and all that. And my only saving grace for me that I've found is the Lord.
Yeah.
That's the only place I've found true peace and true freedom in the midst of it. I mean, yeah, I'll just jump right into it. Yeah, I tried to self-medicate with drugs. Um, I tried to find it in all the wrong places, I guess. Tried to find peace, and it was only Jesus that could give me that. Um,
Yeah.
so
So I have a question for you, because I think right now we're definitely in this interesting time, like we started talking about earlier, with COVID and people are on lockdown. There's probably a lot of both young people and old people that are feeling that, just some pressure right now. They're feeling maybe stuck. They're feeling frustrated. They're feeling anxious. They're feeling just tension. Maybe even some of the things that you felt. But I wanted to ask you, when you take yourself back, where was your headspace, and what were you focused on that you think took you into this negative spiral?
hmm, what was I focused on?
I love to take, because I think it's important to take people back, because that's where other people learn, right? They learn, like were you focused
Sure.
solely on yourself and just, what's in it for Jack, and or where was your head at that time?
Yeah, I'd say my desire to self-medicate or to get out of the uncomfortability of my skin
Hmm.
at that time was more prevalent or more important than obeying obeying God. Um, so when it came to, should I should I keep in step with following Christ, or do I need to go here because I'm not quite getting it yet? I'm not. There was this wrestle between the peace I found with Christ and still battling, the depression and the anxiety of the flesh.
Hmm.
Um, there was this war raging in my soul, I guess, and it yeah, addiction is strong, and it
Yeah.
runs through my family, and it was the and it just got to me, I guess. I mean, it's that simple, I guess. It's depression and anxiety took over. I was I was more focused on that, more focused on self-medicating than keeping my eyes on Jesus. And instead of pressing forward, like you said, in the midst of something being hard, I gave in. And
Yeah.
what was the turning point is when you look on the other side of it and you see what's on the other side of those drugs. I saw death on the other side of cocaine, which was my drug of choice.
Yeah.
Um, and and yeah, that night in specific where I overdosed, It felt like I saw what cocaine really was, and that it did not bring what I thought it would bring. Um, and Jesus was what I needed, and He gave me what I actually needed.
Mm, got it. Yeah, when it comes to depression and anxiety, I think, well, I know a lot of people deal with it. Everybody deals with it differently.
Yeah,
And people experience it differently as well. There's some people that can take that feeling and those feelings and turn it into, just they use it as rocket fuel to get themselves, they can almost get over their own situation. And then there's others that it gets so bad that they can't shut themselves down or they can't shut themselves off.
I was one of those. I was crippled by it,
Yeah.
and I truly needed the Lord. It's and we all do, but when you actually see that and you actually experience the reality of needing an actual Savior, um, and and having an experience where you almost died, and I cried out to Jesus and He saved my life.
Mm,
That's when He became real to me, and
yeah.
that's when I could actually start to access Him to overcome those things that were kicking my butt.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
hey, you found an answer to a problem that you had.
yeah, that's a gross understatement.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? You've overcome, what it is that you were dealing with. I mean, listen, I always find whenever I say overcome, but I put a star next to that because you're always overcoming.
Yes,
It's a daily process to overcome yourself in different ways. But you've
yeah,
you've you've channeled, you've taken, um, what you've been given, and you've turned it into some powerful lyrics. You've turned it into some great music, and you've channeled it, to create. What I'll say, I look at music as therapy, right? You've created therapy for other people that may be in the
yeah,
same situation or headed that way.
yeah, and and that's what I praise God for. That's what I thank God for in the midst of when I'm going through those things. It's what I hold on to. I go, okay, I can walk through this, and I know other people are walking through this, but how can you know, how can I lean on Jesus in a way to overcome this, or to find some hope, or to find some sort of grasp on it,
Mm,
so that I can share that with people. And that's what I try to go through every day. I'm a human just like the rest,
yeah.
and I I struggle just like the rest, but I do have a deep revelation of Christ, and and I truly let the power of God flow in my life to overcome the things that I can't do on my own.
Yeah. No, that's great. So for you, you grew up in a talented family.
I did.
So how much did that rub off on you, both the good and the bad?
The good music,
Yeah.
music naturally flowed.
Yeah.
I obviously I maybe not obviously, but I grew up singing. I had a voice from the time I was a kid, and I'd sit around the piano with my dad, and he'd teach me Billy Joel songs, Elton John
Yeah.
songs, and teach me harmonies. And he made music feel like a very comfortable and homey place.
Mm,
So I could be myself, and growing up in that, music just became naturally intertwined with who I was and how I expressed myself.
mm,
Uh, so that was the beauty of that. It kind of formed my artistry. It Yeah, I grew up in a musical environment, so it just
yeah.
that makes me feel secure in where I'm at in the music
Yeah.
business, and where I'm headed. It
When did you realize that you had musical talent?
was that age. I mean, talent. I guess real talent. I guess age 7. I was in. It was a funny story. We're just driving home, family car ride. Uh, my whole family was in the car, brother, my parents, and Jesus Take the Wheel was on the radio by Carrie Underwood, and
Yeah.
we were just all listening and a little singing along, and at that high note at the end that she just goes to, like the highest note in the song, I just went for it in the car because I was just
I thought
feeling
you
it.
were just gonna go for it now.
Yeah.
You were leaning
Jesus,
back.
take the lead.
There you go.
A little early, and my voice was a little higher back then. I was like, but I just went for it, and then my dad and my mom both looked in the back seat. My dad like stopped the car and went, "Oh my goodness! From now on, you're singing all the time, and we're gonna sculpt this," because he said he heard something just from that note, and he went, "Yeah, let's hone that in."
Yeah, that's cool,
So
man.
so that was the positive side. That's where that started. The negative is what we talked about. Addiction runs through my whole family,
Yeah,
um, in some form or facet. It's not always drugs, but it's that addictive behavior.
right.
Uh, for my uncle David, it was alcohol, and he passed away from that, and he couldn't overcome it,
Wow.
and I think it's because he couldn't quite access. He didn't know how to find God, or how to, yeah, I mean, he didn't know how to humble himself in such a way where he could receive the Lord.
Yeah,
And it was painful to watch, because he really was trying. He really wanted it, but he was so caught up in it and
mm,
consumed in it that it just got to him, and it took his life.
yeah.
Um,
I think it's common, you know, amongst people that deal with these kind of things, because you're just so focused on overcoming it that it becomes really a big part of who you are, right? You have these outlets and these channels where you know, you're playing and you're so caught up in the music, or you're writing, and those are your great moments. But it's like all that space and time in between, you know, your mind could run wild, and
yeah, man,
that's the danger.
that is the danger. Yeah, it's
Huh.
I got to reset every day and start over, and just come to the Lord day by day. And here's where I'm at. If I'm anxious, or I'm bored, or whatever I'm going through, I just gotta focus on staying in that place, and realize that it's just a feeling, and the feeling will pass. And
And you are not the feeling, right?
I'm not the feeling.
Yeah,
And if the feeling comes, I can write from that, and
yeah,
I can write from the pain, but I can write from the side of redemption into the pain. And that's what I love about my own music, is it has this very vulnerable taste of, you can hear my brokenness, but at the same time you hear the brokenness, but you hear the redemption at the same time. And I think
mm,
it's a really cool juxtaposition, I think,
yeah,
uh, that I bring, if I can say it humbly, I guess. But
yeah. But I think too, it
that's what I
allows you
like.
to write music that people connect with, right? Because I think people are tired of hearing all about, you know, perfection, and then they feel that they have to be perfect, yet they can't be. So your music is showing both
Yeah,
sides, saying, "Hey, I may be low, but I finish high," or there's always that chance to rise and
amen.
elevate, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. I like to go into the tough subjects and really unpack them, so we can all stand on that common ground we are together, but then reach for something better,
Yeah.
and reach for the Lord to help us and to save us.
Jack, what is your writing process like? You know, when it comes to, you know, writing a tune, writing a song, you know, how do you do it?
I sit down, and usually it's there's something heavy on my heart. Not always a negative thing. Sometimes it's a positive heavy,
Yeah.
uh, and I'll just try to get the idea first. Whatever the idea is what the music, I think, should sound like. So if the music and the idea are on the same page, you're gonna, you have an idea to have a good song.
Right.
So I try to get the idea first. I'm a melody freak, so I like it's like my second language. So I try to get the melodies down and make sure they emotionally feel like it's where I'm at in the story. It's where I'm at in that place. And usually by the time I get to the chorus, I let it just takes off. It uplifts, and that's when the hope and the redemption and that tone comes in.
Yeah.
That's mainly my writing style. But when that's the practical way. But when I sit down, I can't really help myself but not write to Jesus
Mm.
because of what's so prevalent in my life. And I write from my pain and my struggles, and he is involved in helping all of those. So
Mm.
so it's like when I go to write that, how can I not involve Jesus in my songs? And that's the reason I'm a Christian artist. I didn't just choose, hey, I want to be this. I can't help but write to God. Uh,
Yeah.
it's where my heart is. It's it's all of me. So
Yeah, that's cool. Are you somebody that writes every day? Do you set like a certain time of day, or is it just when you're feeling it, you sit down and hammer away?
it's when I'm feeling it. Lately, it's seasonal. I'll just jump into a seat. I'll go through a lot of life and some hardship and pain and
Yeah.
see the other side of it. And then I'll go through the season where I can crank out like 7 songs or in the course of a week.
Wow.
And I'll send them all to my label, and maybe we'll get like 2 that are keepers. But and then I'll take a break, live a little more life, and in those little pockets, I'll try to write, and I'm like, nothing's quite coming. And you think, will I ever write a song again? Yes, you just need to. It just needs to come from a real spot, and you just need to experience a little more. So it's always experiential. I never sit down to write a song to try to write something that I think will sell, or something that I think is some cool fluffy idea. I write from my heart, and
Yeah.
that's what makes me an artist, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's what people connect to, the reality of what you write as opposed to just another gimmicky beat, you know?
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to do anything. Just put yourself into it and hey, here's who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, and people are going to love it or they're not. But either way, you wrote it with the right intentions.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. How about, because a lot of people will listen to this, they always wonder, just the day to day that somebody has in terms of your own personal habits and routines. Are you a guy that, you know, is working out daily, or are you, somebody likes to draw and does art on the side? Like what are some of your daily things that you do that keep you, inspired, but also keep you, moving towards goal, if you will?
Moving towards goal. Yeah, I have to start every day in the Word,
Okay.
in the Bible. Uh,
We figured
that's
that.
just me. If I don't set that up in the beginning, it's it's the chance that all the terrible stuff will take over. Uh, so I start there. I center myself. I get the peace, and from there, it's pretty simple. I actually just I try to live from that place. I try to function out of that peace, and
Hmm.
whatever I'm doing, I just I just try to rest in that, and it allows me to not become overwhelmed in whatever I'm doing. Whether it's, you know, I'll go for runs. I'll go, run a couple miles on the track, and that just keeps me going. But it's always from a place of not trying to necessarily accomplish much. I'm accomplishing something, but I'm just resting in the Lord doing so. Because if I wasn't, then I think I'd burn out a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Um, so that's that. And little stuff. I during COVID, I've been watching a lot of Shark Tank. I don't know if that's productive, but
Yeah. It stimulates the mind.
keeps the mind going. I'm learning about small businesses and all that. It's
And
really
then
fun.
you probably don't want to get involved with any of those, right? They're a lot of
not
work.
at not at the moment. Yeah. But I like to stay active too. I go out, hang with my friends, and we play baseball. I played baseball all throughout high school,
Oh,
and
nice.
we still go out there and toss the ball and take batting practice, and that's a joy. That's fun.
Hey, that's pretty therapeutic in itself. There's nothing better than ripping a ball, right?
Oh man, it's the best.
Yeah,
Hitting a home run in a game is like, next to being saved, is like one of the best feelings
yeah.
ever.
No, it's true. It's funny. I feel like I interview all baseball players on the show at heart. I had Matthew West on. We were talking last week, and he's a big baseball guy
Okay,
too. And same thing.
that's sweet.
He's reliving the moments of playing and how great it was. And then he's like, "But I did have this talent, for music, and I kind of had to give baseball up to go do that. But I still love baseball."
Same, yeah. I mean, I was almost headed towards a scholarship with baseball. I was doing good. I
Wow.
didn't I didn't have a college idea because I knew that I wanted to
Baseball
either
was the
be,
college idea.
that was it. It was either baseball, being a missionary, or I knew I had music in my back pocket. But music, for some reason, didn't look as prevalent as it does now, which it
Yeah.
way should have. But uh, but yeah, at some point, baseball took a back seat, and music was the thing. I saw that I was thriving in. I saw that I was in my community. I was above most, I'd say.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
there wasn't.
listen, you realize that there's a lot of people out there today that are trying to wonder, like, what should I do? What's my passion? What am I good at? I don't know what to
Yeah,
do. And it creates this other loop of just frustration. So the fact
yeah.
that you found something that lights you up is really powerful.
Seriously, man. Yeah, it's something that lights me up. But yeah, I mean, if I can work the rest of my life doing what I love, and geez, my own therapy,
Yeah.
uh, that would be the biggest blessing in the world. And for everyone else that wants that, I'd just say chase your dreams. And you know, people told me that, go to college and get that degree, just have a backup plan.
Hmm.
And it's a smart idea. But but I knew, once I was on The Voice, and that's when God really affirmed for me that music was it. And
Well, that's good advice, by the way, the
you
backup plan on paper. Like, like,
Yeah,
it makes sense. Like, you're not going to go wrong giving that advice, but the problem is the person you're giving it to may have a bigger dream than
yeah,
just that fallback plan that requires them to work 9 to 5 at a job that they hate for the benefits and a retirement. So
yeah.
it works well for someone that doesn't really have big goals or big dreams or big aspirations. But you tell someone that wants to be a music star, here's what you could fall back on. It's not the best advice.
Not the best advice. Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
even if music didn't work out, I couldn't see myself in a 9 to 5. But I don't see music not working out. I mean, God has put such a mandate on my heart, uh, and
Yeah,
I really feel like He's gonna bless it, and I really feel like my story is gonna resonate with people.
yeah,
And it's not that I want to become famous or want to become a star, but I think God is going to give me a platform so I can share what I've been through, and I think it's going to really help a lot of people.
yeah. That's great, man. That's the missionary work right there that you were talking about, just in a different way.
Yes, sure. Then that's what I realized.
Yeah.
I don't
Sometimes
need to go overseas to be a missionary. I can be a missionary in my own zip code and be a missionary in the music business and all that stuff.
Well, what's crazy about that? Your music does go overseas, and you may end up
Yeah,
overseas too. With the music. So it all comes
totally.
it all comes full circle. It's just a matter of embracing, what's there and what's right in front of you, and being
It's a
cool with it.
it's a great word, man. It's a great word. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part about what you get to do?
My favorite part.
I know
Favorite
you probably
part.
enjoy a lot of it, but that moment where you're like, this is amazing.
Well, because I haven't had much like touring yet, or anything like that. That might be the pinnacle. That might be fun to finally go express myself on stage and finally share my heart in a setting where that's appropriate and it's cool. And but as of right now, I'd say, but just because that's this year that's been what I've been enveloped in is co-writing,
Okay.
co-writing with other Christian artists, and not just Christian artists, other artists, and just being around other talented people and
Mm.
people that are more talented than me, and learning from them, and just soaking all that in. And that has been the greatest joy of all of it,
Yeah.
writing with professional type people, and just being a sponge. That's been the most fun as of now.
Yeah. It's cool. Collaboration is always provides great energy, right?
It's great. Yeah, I mean, they're amazing co-writers that my label's setting me up with. They know how to. I mean, every co-write, I go in there, I give like a 10-minute version of my testimony and just completely spill everything about who I am to complete strangers.
That's all right. That's who you
and
are.
it's beautiful, and I'm glad that I'm such an open book, because it makes for great songs, and they know how to hear my story and interpret it in their own talent, in their own creative way, and then I come in with my perspective on that, and we make something beautiful.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's fun. Hey, you're creating. Creation is fun when you make something that doesn't exist and you turn it into something that people could connect with and relate to. That's powerful.
Yeah, man. And for me, creating is one of the only times where my mind feels totally at ease, at peace. You
Which
know,
I think is
in
probably
the midst
most.
of
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna
no,
say, I
no,
think
keep going.
for most creatives, I would think it would be like that, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's what they all. That's the common theme of us all. um, but I think everyone has whatever that is, in some facet. I know I have friends that their thing is, they ride bikes, they ride motorcycles, and they get on the motorcycle, and they're just free. Their blood pressure is totally down, and they feel like that's their thing. So I'd encourage everyone to find whatever that is in their life, to get that. But
Yeah. Ah, I love it. All right, so you got the song "Run at the Giant." That's a big one for you, and it's a great tune. Can you
thanks, man.
tell me about that process, like writing that song, bringing it to life? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I wrote the song with Paul Maybury, which is Lauren Daigle's producer, uh, Grammy Award winner. He's very talented guy. And Andrew Rip, who's another artist. So it was a three co-write. It was one of the most. It was one of the most interesting co-writes, in a way that it was one of the only songs where the idea didn't come first.
Hmm.
It came last. The phrase "run at the giant" was the last lyric that fell into the song.
Wow.
We had everything else. You're with me in the fire, strong and never tire. Blank. Dun dun dun. Blank. We didn't have that. What was that thing? Uh, and we're looking back at it. It's like, here's the brokenness of what we went into in the verse, and now God is with us. And so, what's the response to that? And then and then at some point, someone pitched. It was Paul, I think. He was like, "Run at the giant. We could we can run at the Giants because of this." And we all looked at each other in the room, and we're just like, yeah, that's it. uh and it completely, it was the perfect thing to tie up that song, and to get what we were saying, because the heart was there, the the idea was there, but that was the point that drove home in my story and in my life, and what that song was trying to communicate.
Yeah, that's cool. And the giant is symbolic of what?
For me, in this song specifically, the giant was cocaine.
Mm.
uh it was, I mean, I'll go back. I've been sober for, not sober, but I've been clean from that for 2 years.
Okay.
um Over 2 years, thank the Lord. uh but back then it was bad, man. I would it got to the point where I'd be up for 3 days without sleeping,
Mm,
uh, isolated in my car, just keep chasing the highs that never satisfy. And one night in specific, I took too much, and I was up for 3 days, and I overdosed. It felt like you don't have to die to overdose, but I did too much, and my whole body went cold, and my heart started uncontrollably beating out of my chest, and I couldn't stop it.
wow.
And I hit my knees, and I cried out to the Lord, cried out, and I felt my heart slow down, and I felt life start to come back into my body, and I wouldn't have made it through that night without him. I sat down just in a man. I went into the shower and blasted worship music, and I just sat there, and my whole body was tweaking out and in just this radical anxiety state. But I was communing with Jesus in my spirit, and I was accessing the peace in the midst of chaos completely around me. Uh, and that's when Jesus became real, and that's when I could start to access Him in the midst of crazy circumstances.
Mm,
Uh, and things haven't been that crazy since that night, thank the Lord. But it's given me it gave me something. It gave me that power that night to press on and to,
yeah.
as your slogan says, to believe that I can champion through this. And it gave me that fire. It gave me that drive. So
Yeah. Yeah. You again, you took that negative and turned it into positive. You know, you had some superpower working with you and moving you towards where you're supposed to go.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, like we started out saying, you know, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be things in your life and that present themselves. And that goes for nobody's immune to it, unfortunately. You know, so we
yeah.
have to learn how to deal with things so we can continue to move ourselves, you know, towards where it is we're supposed to be.
And it's great to look back and yes, that song is I'm running at the current giants in my life, and even though that was going back to that, I think it's important to look back at the giants that you have overcome,
Hmm.
to have the confidence to know that you can overcome the ones that you're facing right now, uh, and to know that God is still there, still with us, still very prevalent, and still very willing to get us through the next hurdle.
Yeah.
So
I-
keep
I-
pressing forward, and
Yeah, that's all.
that's the idea.
Yeah, that's all we could do. I was going to ask you, just you know, being a young guy in the music industry, music business, it's definitely a competitive and aggressive industry in its own right. How do you keep yourself focused, but also very secure in yourself, um, to move yourself to, or try to move yourself to the top of that industry, or to move yourself? I always say going from amateur to pro. You know, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that.
I mean, are you asking what I do to prepare personally, like in that way? I mean,
Well, you know, more mentally than physical. Like what is it that like when you take a look and say, hey, here's what I want to do in this industry. How do you generate the energy to do that, the mindset to do that? How do you keep yourself moving towards where it is you want to go without being intimidated by this big industry and even by a city like Nashville?
yeah. The honest answer, I truly believe that God has carved a niche for me, just for me to speak in a platform that He's literally created just for me. So I don't feel like I'm competing with anybody. I feel like God has gave me my lane, and I'm just
Right.
gonna walk through that lane and see what happens. It's it's really that simple, actually. Uh, I just I know I know where God is taking me, and I see the evidence of it every day, and what He's and how He's working, and all I'm doing is just trying to be obedient and try to write the songs that he's giving me and putting on my heart, and just turn them in. And I truly believe he's the one that's gonna make it spark.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of the pressure off of you.
Oh, it takes all the pressure off. It really does. It's a I'd encourage everyone to try to find that, just to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're competing, just because God created you for something in specific that no one else can walk in but you.
Yeah.
And it's your destiny, it's your path. And so why even look at someone else's when that's their path, and just stay on your own.
Yep, those are wise words. Because especially today, with the Instagram and everything else, everybody's trying to be like everybody else, and wants what other people have, and it's saying, hey, you know, it's your lane. I love that. You got to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gives you peace. That makes you feel fulfilled in what you're doing, and it just speaks to your own destiny, and it's what makes us unique. Yeah.
Totally. So as I wrap up every one of these shows, I ask one specific question. I call this the Becoming a Champion show, because we're all on a journey. We're all working to become champions, our best self, right? What does the word champion mean to you? Former baseball player. I mean, it should come easy for you.
Champion is, I mean, in that way, it's taking it's taking a win in life. I mean, there's always going to be losses in everything, and if we can not focus on the losses, and focus on the wins and what got us to the wins, and me, I always bring it back to Jesus, because it's the only way I win in life. So my champion is Jesus, and and as long as I'm staying and abiding in him, then I feel like I can champion over life and be more than a conqueror towards the things that completely cripple us and disable us, and that come against us and oppose us in life. But that's the answer. Jesus is my champion, and if I'm walking with him, I think I can overcome the world just like he did.
Nice. No, that's cool, man. Everybody's has their own, unique way of expressing what the word champion means to them. So I appreciate your take on it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
So that's super cool, man. I appreciate you hanging with me today.
Cool.
And sharing your story. It's real. I think a lot of people are in the same situation, believe it or not. They don't have the platform to speak about it, but there's a lot of people out there today that are struggling, and some of them don't even have the confidence to talk about it, or they're ashamed. So you have a chance to make a real impact on people with your story, with your music, and again being uninhibited to speak about it.
Yeah, if I can be as raw and open as I can be, then I think people can jump into my music and jump into my story and start to be brave enough to look at it and to overcome it, and so they can champion themselves.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Cool. Jack, thanks so much, man, for hanging, and we'll be rooting for you and supporting you from New York.
My pleasure, Dana. Thank you so much.
Cool. Awesome, man. Take care. All right.
You too, brother.
All
I'll
right.
see you.
Stay strong. See you.